And seeing as nobody else has volunteered, I thought that this evening, before film club, I would give you all a little talk on activity badges. So,
there are 37 badges that you can collect. Badge number 1.
right. Clever dicks.
Hello and welcome to... I was going to say something else then.
What were you going to say?
My old one.
God.
Hello and welcome to Haunting Button House, a BBC Ghost podcast. I am Luke. I don't know what's going wrong with me there. I'm looking at it. I just can't read it. And you are Tash, I assume.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, how are you anyway? I'm not going well apparently.
I'm alright, thank you, Luke. How are you?
I'm good. How have you been?
Not too bad, thank you. I feel like there was something that I was going to mention in this bit when you go, what have you done this week?
I think I know what it's going to be.
Yeah, and now I can't remember what it is. There was something...
Wonka.
Oh, yeah, we watched Wonka.
We did, yeah.
That was the one. That was the Wonka.
That was terrible. But anyway.
Yeah, we watched Wonka, so it's got an all-star cast.
Yeah, I mean, good movie in general, I thought, but for people who watch Ghosts, I think it's got a lot of...
Yeah, who was in it? So we've got Matthew Bainton, Simon Farnaby.
Yeah, well, Simon Barnaby. Simon Farnaby wrote it as well.
Yes.
And wrote all the Paddington films as well.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Whenever I think of him in Paddington, what does he say?
It's about the nun, isn't it?
No, I'm sure he doesn't say sexy.
No, stunning or something like that, isn't it?
Yes.
Stunning sister.
Stop that stunning sister.
That's it, yeah. But yeah, so yeah, like you said, Matthew Bainton, Simon Farnaby, who plays Alison?
Yes.
I can't remember the actress'
Charlotte
name.
Ritchie.
Charlotte Ritchie. She's in it briefly as well.
Yes, there's quite a lot of people. I can't remember. We should have written it down as we were watching it.
There was quite a lot. I mean, nobody wants to hear us listing names, but yeah, there's quite a lot of British sitcom stars in it. So Alan Johnson from Peep Show's in it. I mean, that's not the actor's name, but you know, Alan Johnson, yeah. But you know, just everybody was in it pretty much. It was like,
everyone.
Every time somebody else came in, you're like, oh, it's that person from that TV show. So yeah, if you are interested in Ghosts and Wonka,
I hope you're interested in Ghosts if you listen to this.
Well, yeah, it'd be surprising.
9 episodes deep, Luke. I mean,
they're like, I'm not getting into this.
I don't really like ghosts.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what we've done this week. That's all we've done.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was something else as well that linked back to Ghosts that I was going to mention and I can't remember. As usual, I can't remember.
That's why I write down. I look through my calendar of like, what have I done this week? Put it in there.
Yeah, we haven't done anything else, have we?
No. I saw Dune, so it's another Timothée Chalamet, but there's no connection whatsoever to Ghosts there, so we'll leave it be.
Well, we have had some feedback this week.
Okay.
So, Caroline. Caroline agrees that like they really hit the ground running with this series and lots of great episodes. Caroline always gives us a lot of history with her comments, which is good because we don't know that. So Caroline said that bear baiting would have been a thing in London at the time, so setting dogs on the bear, so it would have been entirely possible to see a bear attack and kill a man at one of these shows. Sounds lovely.
I imagine like London back then was just like a murder-a-thon, you know what I mean? Like just people just getting killed left, right and centre.
And she says, although as some of Mick's other claims were perhaps a bit suspect, who knows, the king would have been Edward III.
Okay, yeah.
So I find that so interesting that you know this. Caroline said that Mike threw his first shoe at the moment he saw someone on the driveway, so I obviously just missed that. Before that, everyone was indoors and wouldn't have noticed him. She said that she worries about Humphrey's head because he was down in the gutter, so he couldn't just topple himself off the edge. So I did kind of think that how is he ever going to get down from there?
Like, I think she goes on to mention that maybe somebody eventually realised that his head wasn't there and just went, oh, we'll go and check on him.
And Caroline also reminded us that in Series 5 it's implied that ghosts definitely can have intimacy.
Okay.
And Robin says something that implies that if it were possible for ghosts to become pregnant, there would be a number of his offspring in the picture. I don't remember that, but... there's a lot I don't remember, to be honest. Yeah,
even in this episode, stuff came up again, and I was like, I forgot this.
And Caroline also said that the Enfield Haunting was also a TV miniseries with Timothy Spall in 2015.
It's fairly recent, to be fair, yeah.
And, so she said, I think it's very easy to conjure up a sighting of something spooky if it's suggested to you that it's there. The police officer might have fallen foul of this type of auto-suggestion. Yeah, that's interesting to consider that. Yeah, just...
leading questions, and stuff.
Oh, the chair's moving on its own. Oh, yeah, it is. Exactly. It's kind of... Yeah, so there we go. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah, everyone. Shall we get on with the episode before I embarrass myself further?
Yeah.
This week we are looking at Series 2, Episode 3. Yeah, 3. I'm like, was this definitely the third one? Entitled Reading Weddy, which is a reference to Mike later on, just not being able to say the words wedding ready.
It's hard. It's hard.
I can sympathise. It's a bit like a tongue twister. You say it 5 times, do you reckon?
Wedding ready, wedding ready, wedding ready, wedding ready, wedding ready.
That is tough. Pretty good though, to be fair. Have I got to do it now? Well, no.
Yeah, you can't talk at the best
I know,
time.
I was going to say. She's great for podcasting. It was directed by Tom Kingsley again. Written by Ben Willibond, Simon Farnaby, and the original air date was the 5th of October 2020.
I'd be interested, sorry to just butt in before you've even started, but I'm interested to see going forward, maybe we can look back as well, at when we have like a really character heavy, like one character heavy episode. So like this episode, although we haven't talked about it yet, the captain is quite a key character in it, of learning his story. And Ben Willibond is a writer.
Yes.
So I'd be interested to see the correlation between when it's a one character heavy episode, when we learn a lot about one character, if the person that plays that character has a lot to do with the writing.
It'd be interesting next week, because I think that, again, we're jumping way ahead here, looking at next week already. But next week, I think, is Thomas's backstory.
Okay.
So it'd be interesting to see if Matthew Bainton writes.
I do like that though, when actors have a character and they help with the writing of that character, because it just shows they are that, or not that they are that character, I suppose, but they know that character so well that they can sort of write them and know sort of what direction that character's going to take. So
it's quite unique in this TV show, to be honest, though, because a lot of the time the writers aren't the people who play the characters. So going from an example of Peep Show, neither I was going to say Mark and Jeremy then, but that's
you always use Peep Show as an example. I don't know why.
I guess it's something like a comedy show that we've watched quite a lot. So
David Mitchell and Robert Webb.
Yeah, so they don't write it.
No, which I thought they did for such a long time.
So they're just kind of portraying a character written for them. But I wonder, because this is like a group that production, the production company's all them. I wonder if it's more intimate to them, but. Yeah, who knows?
Sorry to interrupt there.
No, I think
it literally just popped into my head, to be honest. It wasn't a thought out thing. So
yeah, I think it's an interesting tangent to sort of bring up as well, and something that we can see next week anyway.
Cheers, Luke. Yeah. Thank you.
No worries.
I feel so validated.
Anyway. So we start with a flashback to World War II. Well, pre we find out pretty quickly it's World War II.
Yeah.
As we start seeing the captain, he's training a group of soldiers, but basically just telling them off for having fun.
I think when the bit first starts and we see him, I think we kind of, well, I did anyway. Again, my memory's terrible, but I forgot that he was talking to his comrades. I don't know, is that the right term?
Depends where you are.
Oh, really? Why would it not be the right term?
I guess, I don't know. Maybe that's more of a Russian thing to say. I don't know.
God. Okay.
In World War II anyway,
okay.
I suppose. Yeah.
Well, his colleagues.
Yeah.
I forgot that he was talking to them. When he first started talking, I was like, oh, he's just talking to the other ghosts.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting when it pans around and you're like, oh, that isn't who I was expecting to see.
I guess it shows that he's not really changed that much in
definitely.
60, 70 years since he died. But yeah, so he's basically telling off all these soldiers for having fun when they should be concentrating on the war, which is interesting because we see a lieutenant, sorry, I nearly did the American saying then, Lieutenant Havers. We have to say lieutenant.
Havers?
Havers. Oh my god.
It's because it's spelt Havers.
Yeah, Havers, yeah.
I didn't even watch the episode,
I know. I literally watched it today. But yeah, Lieutenant Havers enters and lets him know that France have surrendered. I saw a note when I was looking into this that says this puts it in around 1940, this does.
Okay.
June 1940, they reckon. So, yeah, we see the captain suddenly change as soon as he hears this because he thinks the Germans are going to be on their way, and he sort of starts panicking and looking out the window as if they're going to be on the doorstep. I do
think it was interesting that he panicked.
Yeah.
Because he comes across as so in order, in control of a situation. It almost gave me the impression that he didn't really want to be at war. He didn't really want to be there. He just sort of faked it until he made it. Yeah. And I think later on, sorry to skip ahead, but Havers kind of takes control of the situation when the captain's kind of panicking.
Yeah.
And someone who's a lower ranking officer is the one taking control. So
yeah, basically,
it kind of makes him look really vulnerable, I thought.
But yeah, after this, and we realise that the Germans aren't on their doorstep. They sort of dismiss all the troops, and Havers informs him that he's put in a transfer request because he actually wants to go onto the front line and actually fight for his country. Rather than, I guess, prepping people to fight here. This upsets the captain, but he ultimately supports his decision and he's quite accepting of it, even though he's personally disappointed. And then we go into the intro. So yeah, nice little flashback scene here of the captain in World War II.
You can't ignore that.
No, she screams right into the mic. Thank you for your patience. Shelly removal is currently taking place. Please stand by. So back in the present, we see Pat, Julian, Thomas, Mary and Robin are all having a chat about what they're going to do before film club. Pat suggests that they talk about activity badges again, and the ghosts all basically mime that they already know this. Well, they go through the routine essentially. So yeah, this has already been done before. He calls them all clever dicks, and Robin then goes on to what his suggestion is for a topic, which is about skinning a mammoth, which, again, all the ghosts groan, they've done this a million times. But we finally see Mary speak up and says that she'll talk about a witch trial. And she's finally built up her courage after, as Julia mentions, it's only taken her 300 years to get ready.
Get ready for it.
Yeah.
I imagine it was quite a harrowing experience.
I was on Reddit earlier and somebody did a ranking of the most traumatic ways the ghosts have died, and Mary is the top of the list, and I was like, that's probably right, to be honest. Like, she's burnt alive, you know what I mean? It's like, has to be the worst way out of all of them anyway. Sorry to bring the tone down on a comedy podcast.
Comedy podcast.
Well, comedy TV review. We're not funny. So meanwhile, we see Alison and Mike are giving a wedding planner a tour of Button House. His name's Martin. I don't know if that's not really relevant, but you know that's his name. They're talking about their previous sort of meeting with Belle's weddings, or Isabel from Belle's weddings, and he mentions that it didn't go well because he was sick on her, which
Alison was sick on her.
Yeah, and Alison tries to correct it by saying, "No, I was sick near her," and Mike again can't help but correct and say, "Yeah, a bit got on her." The couple start to. Well, they get excited that Martin is basically happy with the house and wants to take one of his clients round them. He gives them the whole Simon Cowell bit as well. He says, "I don't like the house. I love it."
Yeah.
Is that Simon Cowell or a Louis Walsh? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's Simon Cowell.
But he just says he just wants to see the garden, and you can tell they're a bit nervous about this because when they go outside, we see that the garden is an absolute dump. They haven't got round to doing this, and there's just construction stuff everywhere, basically. Martin says that this isn't really a deal breaker as long as they can clear the garden by this afternoon, because he plans to show Claire this client round later today. So Alison agrees. He says he'll stall Claire for as long as he can, gives him till 4 o'clock, which Mike mentions that's 5 hours time to clear the garden, which is doable, I suppose. Like,
did you see it?
It's a mess, but it is doable, I guess.
Skip.
Yeah. Inside, we see Julian and Thomas. They're sort of arguing over whose film choice it is for Film Club. Pat suggests Top Gun. And this is a theme that comes up quite a lot in this episode. Julian, being just the worst person, keeps suggesting films with fire in them. So Terrorium Inferno, Chariots of Fire, stuff like that. Just to try and trigger Mary, I suppose.
Testing her.
Yeah. Thomas says that it's his turn to pick. Julian says it's not. They pretty much come to blows at this point, or they go to. What does
Julian says, "I'll give you a box of 5s, mate."
He is, yeah.
And he was Cambridge champion?
Boxing champion. Yeah. Again, every time Julian says something like this, there's something else that he claims later on that he's done, and I'm like, is it true or is it all just, it has to be blustered, isn't it?
I like it when Pat goes, "Guys, s'il vous plaît."
I like this because Robin gets excited. Now, we know from watching later episodes that Robin is fluent in French.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like he gets excited about it. It's like, oh, somebody's speaking French. Maybe this is a long, again, kind of semi-spoilers for later on in the series. But yeah, maybe he's excited that somebody else is speaking French again. Pat suggests that they put it all to a vote, which Julian says, leave it to the public. Where have they ever decided correctly? Not exactly that. I'm paraphrasing there. But they say, Julian says it's not fair because 1, he's outvoted initially, and 2, not all of the ghosts are present. So Fanny, Kitty, and the captain are elsewhere. So we quickly see where Fanny is. She is reading. Kitty's reading Lady Chatterley's Lover, leaves, and then Fanny goes to see what all the fuss is about this, and she gets quickly engrossed in reading it. Outside, we see Mike and Alison start to get ready to clear the garden, but all the ghosts come and interrupt them.
I think you missed when Fanny kind of looks out the window at Mike.
No, it's after this part, I think, where she sees him. I did note it down, but yeah, it's a bit later on.
Sorry.
Right, that's not in the notes. But yeah, Mike, he keeps trying to say, as I said in the title of this, he keeps trying to say wedding ready, but just cannot say it. Like,
Go on, try 5 times.
Wedding ready, wedding ready, wedding ready, wedding ready, wedding ready.
Yeah,
I really had to put some thought into that, to be honest. Kitty's excited by the idea of a wedding. She says that she's excited by the... what does she say now? It's something, the men and the kissing.
Yeah.
Which is all she seems interested in. But I don't know what Lady Chatterley's lover's like, so I don't know if that's
Yeah, you
still
do. We watched a TV show. It's Filth.
Have we?
Yeah.
When did we watch that?
It was like a period, like, dramatisation of the book.
I don't remember watching
Yeah,
that
we
at
did, and it
all.
was absolutely filthy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we saw the effect it had on Fanny, so... yeah, so Pat offers to help out Alison as well because all the ghosts are arguing, and he says he will basically keep them occupied so they can tidy up the garden. He says he's going to be Alison's wingman. So yeah, he's just got Top Gun on the brain now, basically. They mention, Mike mentions that it's going to be as easy it's going to be easier than getting a man on the moon, and some of the older ghosts are a bit perplexed as to what he means there. So an easy way to distract them all, Alison decides to set up a laptop and show them a YouTube video on the moon landings. So they're all watching that, which... There's some interesting parts with this as well, because when they first mentioned that they got a man on the moon, Thomas asks how did it happen? Did they climb up there on a beanstalk? And he says you're dicked in the knob, which
I was like, what?
Interesting term of phrase, which I think is an old thing, but yeah, it sounds very different these days. Pat also says that they're going to watch it on the computer that folds, which I liked. As they're watching the moon landings, Pat and Julian, obviously being alive at the time, discuss what they did during the moon landings. Pat watched it at his wife's parents' house before he was married, and he said that they all had fish and chips. He had a battered sausage and chips, and never went back once he'd had it.
Life changing.
It was life changing. Julian, a much worse activity that he said. He said he had his first threesome at the time, which again, don't know if it's true. I think Julian.
You should have just said Julian had his own moon landing and left it at that.
That was it. Yeah. Fanny, this is when we start this story that goes through the rest of this episode, where Fanny, after reading Lady Chatterley's lover, because she says, "Oh, he's such a ruffian," and as she looks out the window, she sees Mike sort of just moving a wheelbarrow and stuff in the wheelbarrow, and it's like parody of like all like adverts, like the Diet Coke advert and stuff like that later on. But these type of like ogling a guy adverts, and she starts in a typical Fanny way pulling a face as soon as she sees. She has like facial like acting down to a T.
Yeah, definitely.
We see so Alison leaves the ghosts watching the YouTube video, and the captain comes and he says, "Where's Alison and Mike?" Pat says that they're cleaning up the garden.
He says they're digging up the garden.
They're digging up the garden. So. That's it, yeah. And the captain starts to become a bit agitated and goes out to the garden to stop them. At first, his first attempt, he tells them not to dig it up because this is the regiment's basically like pet cemetery, and he says that his dog called Barry is buried there, which is an interesting name for a dog. But Alison's not really sold on that. The captain says that she can't dig there. He finally comes out with the truth, which we find out is very true. That he says she can't dig there because something potentially explosive will come out. So she sort of agrees. I think this is quite good in this part, and there's a bit later on. You kind of see now that Alison treats them with quite a lot of respect.
She trusts what they say. Yeah, definitely. But I guess she kind of has to, I suppose. She kind of has to trust that they know the house a lot better than she does.
Yeah.
So it's sort of, it's not sort of weird that she does trust them, I don't think.
Yeah. So there's a few things in this where she kind of goes on their recommendation. So she stops digging at this point, and they go to clear another part of the garden. So we see another flashback at this point, and the captain has a letter, and it seems like it's a letter for William. So at this point we think William is Havers' name.
I kind of assumed that was...
Havers arrives and basically lets the captain know that he's finally got a posting. He is actually going to North Africa at 6 o'clock this evening. So the captain looks upset. It seems like he was trying to tell him something, but sort of holds it back and doesn't give this letter to Havers, and sort of
it's kind of like it's our first sort of thoughts of the captain's sexuality, I suppose. Yeah. And without like spoiling it, at the end it's sort of left with, did he mean that? Did he not? Like, I don't know. It's because it's like our first sort of suggestion, like, of his sexuality, but then I'm not sure at the end.
I think it's over enough where I think it would be, what's the word? It would be like them making light of it if it wasn't the case, you know what I mean? Like the fact that it is, or it seems that that's the way it's going.
Yeah.
It seems more, that's what they're hinting at. I did like, I saw a note somewhere when I was like looking into the episode. In this room, there's two posters. One says "Fit Men Required," and one says "Button It Up." Which somebody noted they're the two sides to his sort of quandary, you know what I mean? But yeah, I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
We then see Fanny again going outside, and Mike stops to have a convenient Coke break, or cola, because it's BBC and we can't have full branded products. But again, Fanny is sort of excited, I guess, by this. I don't know the exact expression she's given. She describes what it is later on as a... where did I put it in the notes? I definitely come to it, what she describes it as. We'll come to it.
Okay.
Back inside, we see them. The YouTube video ends about the moon landing, and Julian and Thomas go back to their argument about the film club. They decide they're going to settle it with a fight outside, or that's what we think. The ghosts all disappear, leaving just Robin there, who's watching these videos. And in typical YouTube fashion, it just goes into the next video, which is a video on moon landing conspiracies. So yeah, we all have that one relative, don't we, that is well into these kind of things.
I can say more on conspiracies when we get to the bit.
Later on, so we go back outside, we see Julian and Thomas getting ready to have a fight, is what we think. But it turns out they're just having a game of rock, paper, scissors, which Thomas doesn't understand the rules of because he chooses a pistol. I like at this part, Julian makes reference to how Thomas died, because he says, choosing a pistol, it didn't work out for you well the last time, and points to his sort of chest.
Bullet wound.
Yeah, well, yeah. Julian then decides that he's going to play Thomas's rules, so he pulls out an AK-47, or an imaginary AK-47, some grenades, and then finally a flamethrower right as Mary walks around the corner. So she's just not having a good time of it, to be honest. We see Alison and Mike are, at this point, a bit beat and tired from tidying the garden, but they have a bit of motivation and keep going. They manage to dig through some of the weeds and find a statue, a white statue in the garden, who Kitty mentions is called Florence. And she... Well, initially, they say they're going to smash it, which Kitty starts crying because this is her friend, apparently.
Best friend.
Her best friend. I like as Alison's talking to Kitty and starts saying about breaking it, and he goes, moving it, and he just turns around and goes, can tell this isn't going to be good news. But yeah, then Kitty goes on to reveal why she's her best friend, because apparently her sister used to play hide and seek with her, and she used to hide with Florence. What was it? Florence, wasn't it? For periods of time, could be up to the entire day, which Kitty keeps revealing these really sad stories from her childhood. And you're just like, man, is she like just massively mistreated or something and just didn't realise? But we see Pat apologising to Alison as well, because all the ghosts come and basically try to argue with her again about this, about what film to watch. And Pat finally comes up with an idea when he sees a washing line. He says they're going to have a game of volleyball using Humphrey's head. So again, Top Gun is right at the forefront of his mind. Kitty says that she wants to play a game of hide and seek with Alison because she, I think if she doesn't smash up the statue and just moves it, she'll be happy with that as long as she plays hide and seek with her. Mm-hmm. So Alison agrees. She tells Kitty to go and hide. And
so mean.
It's just like she's literally
doing what your sister did.
Yeah, exactly. We then see Robin is back inside watching more conspiracy theories. He's now watching about JFK, I think.
Yeah.
And he's fully indoctrinated at this point.
So I made some notes here.
Okay, yeah.
So the conspiracies mentioned at this point are Grassy Knoll. I don't know what that is.
JFK, yeah.
Oh, I thought, okay. Elvis did not die in the toilet.
Okay, yeah.
The British monarchy was replaced by weasels.
Okay, that's a reference to one.
Okay, and then later on, they say lone gunman, which I thought was JFK.
Yeah, it's another JFK one, yeah.
Paul McCartney died in 1966.
Which is one you know about.
Yeah, and obviously the moon landings. Yeah. So I had a look at what other conspiracy theories.
Right, okay.
That's meant. So later on as well, it's mentioned that the Earth is actually flat.
Okay, right.
And then there was a few more that I found. Princess Diana's death was no accident.
Okay, that's
it's
topical.
9/11 was an inside job.
I've heard about this one.
Queen Elizabeth I was a man.
I've not heard a man. I've heard that she's a lizard, which is where the was the ferret one or something like that.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, weasels.
Yeah, that's it. There's a theory that like all the elite of the world are lizard people.
Right.
Yeah.
Area 51 is home to lots of aliens and government secrets.
Yeah.
And these two are my favourites. Okay. So Avril Lavigne died and was replaced.
I saw this one actually, yeah.
And one that I only found out today, which I've got some information about, is Disney created Frozen as a distraction.
From? People
have long discussed the conspiracy that Walt Disney used cryogenics technology to freeze himself when he died, even though the Disney family refutes the claim. Refutes the claims. However, a new theory is that the Walt Disney Company created Frozen as a way to hack Google's search algorithm and distract consumers from information about the late Walt Disney's possible Frozen procedure.
See, I thought you was going to say like the song "Let It Go" was like a subtle thing to just forget about it. Yeah. No. I thought I was going to say that, which is about. It wouldn't surprise me if people had that theory as well. Yeah. Not my favourite conspiracy.
Oh, I missed one.
Well, my favourite conspiracy. It's not really a conspiracy as such, but apparently there's dinosaurs still alive in the Congo jungle.
We'll have to go.
Well,
I'm due to get some umbongo.
I wouldn't go to the Congo jungle.
I want some umbongo though, so...
I don't know, is that from there?
Umbongo is from the Congo. Everybody knows
according
that.
to their marketing department.
It's legit, Luke.
So there you go. So your favourite was the Disney one?
And Avril Lavigne, yeah. Paul McCartney as well. Like, they got some points, that's all I'm saying.
There's one as well, that similar kind of thing, Mark Hamill.
From your film.
From my film, yeah.
Film What You Like.
Apparently died, and they replaced him as well because he looks completely different from the second and third film onward.
How does he look completely? Was he in a car accident or something?
I think so, yeah.
And they just reconstructed his face and just made him someone else.
I don't know, yeah, like the Bionic Man.
Crazy times.
So there you go. There's your
and we'll never know.
So there's the conspiracy corner. Do you know what? I've just realised, as saying that, I've not made a jingle for your thing. I said I was going to debut it. Oh,
that is embarrassing.
Sorry, team. Yeah, just as soon as I said conspiracy corner, I was like, that's a good name for it. And I was like, oh damn, I missed it. I haven't done an actual jingle.
Never mind.
Anyway, so yeah, Robin is now fully into all these conspiracy theories.
See later on it's about gravity not working.
Yeah, he's not convinced because you can't see it. So the next part, we can basically sum it up as a Top Gun volleyball parody scene, which involves Pat, Thomas and Julian, and Humphrey's head as the ball.
His head goes through a lot,
doesn't
it?
As he said, he just likes to be involved, though.
Well, and how sad is that?
That is sad. But when you're just at head, then, I quite like this. It's pretty on point of the Top Gun scene. Just a lot less naked bodies, I guess.
Right.
Or semi-naked, I suppose.
It, so.
It's just like blokes with no shirts on volleyballing. Volleyballing then. I've become like Mike. We see Mary arrive as Kitty is hiding. She finds her, so she awkwardly joins in with their hide and seek game. And Kitty says she'll count, and as she starts counting, Mary runs away saying, "Oh, it's numbers." So we see Fanny again, see Mike, and this is where she runs away and explains to, I think it's the captain, that she's having a conniption
fit.
A conniption fit, yes, which I've never
heard of before.
I've never heard of.
Me neither.
So yeah, answers on a postcard from everybody. what that is. Yeah.
Do we want to know?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. The captain initially thinks that she's saying that she's fallen for someone, that it's him, and she tells me no that it's definitely not him. And the captain tells her that she shouldn't get, let her emotions take over, and she should bury her emotions. And then we see a flashback to the captain with the letter, and we literally see him bury this letter. So again, we think it's him just putting a button on all of his feelings for Havers. We see Mary hiding in the garden now, which comes into play a bit later. And we see Julian and Thomas argue over the score in their Humphrey head volleyball game. Robin arrives as the judge, being Pat, starts telling him the rules, and he says that, you're not going to listen to the man, are you? And starts going off on all his different conspiracies, which confuses Pat. Thomas gets upset over this dispute not being solved and decides to just boot Humphrey's head over the house. Quite a funny visual gag of just flying over the house. We see Mary's found by Kitty, and Kitty then goes to hide while Mary seeks. A bit later on, we see the couple now exhausted. I keep saying the couple.
I know, yeah. I'm like, we know these people.
Alison and Mike.
It's Mike and Alison.
Yeah. They're exhausted from tidying this house up, but you see that they've done quite a lot of it at this point. So they just decide, we'll just do the last bit. Mike will go and clear the garden waste. If Alison goes to redecorate the garden, basically, and make it look nice and presentable. And we see all the ghosts turn up at this point with all their different problems. So we see Fanny talking about her secret lust for Mike. Julian and Thomas and Pat about this film club debate. Robin about his conspiracies. I think this is where he mentions that gravity's not real, isn't it, or something like that. But yeah, they're all coming to Alison to try and get her to decide on it all. And but then we see them all get distracted because Mike is deciding to get rid of the garden waste by setting it on fire.
That's something you would do.
Possibly.
It is.
Yeah. I feel like
you love it when we have a fire.
I do love having a fire, but you have to you got to be careful about doing that these days. Yeah. So yeah, he decides to put it all into a pile and set it on fire, which is right where Mary is hiding or seeking. As we see her just surrounded by fire. She's terrified, realises what it is, and runs away. The captain then arrives and sees that this fire has started on the part where he told them not to dig. And he tells them all to get back because there's a bomb. We see a flashback at this point to the captain burying a bomb under this part. And Alison manages to tell Mike to get back. They all run as the captain runs to jump on the explosion, which does finally go off and makes this huge crater in the garden. One of the stones come up and knocks the statue over, which Robin now says, maybe gravity is real. And the captain then goes on to explain what this was, that basically, during the war, Uncle Albert did that.
During the war.
We find out that him and his second-in-command, who's Havers, had a prototype limpet mine called Operation William, which is the name he had on the letter. And they had to basically bury it in the garden with the blueprints to keep it all a secret. So, at this point... Alison is upset because she says, I didn't expect it was actually explosive. And also Mike is a bit upset of next time, if it's ghost business, tell me if it's an actual bomb.
Yeah.
But this is all sort of culminated by we see Martin, the wedding planner, arrive. And this time he's got Claire with him, so they decide that she needs to stall them two, and Mike needs to just try and prepare the garden as best as he can.
Just going back, so am I wrong to think that Havers was called William?
So it's implied in this that he was called William, but I think by the end of it we don't really know if that was his name or not.
Because I thought after, maybe if obviously the captain says that him and Havers buried Operation William, or whatever that was Operation William, but Havers isn't there in the flashbacks.
Yes, yeah.
So could it be that it was an operation? He did need to bury the blueprints, but he called it William. He didn't. No one else needed to know that it was called William, but he called it in a sense of like, he's burying his feelings for William Havers.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I wondered, and I wasn't sure if maybe I missed something at that point to suggest that is William, or...
They never explain what his name is in this episode. Now,
no, maybe they do going forward.
They do explain it. I only know because I saw it on Wikipedia when I was reading into this.
Yeah.
And they do tell you, but I didn't remember his name either.
Is it William?
It's not William, no.
Oh, okay.
But it would be interesting if his name was William.
Yeah, because it would kind of be that he's burying his feelings. But that's kind of what I was saying before, in that, like, it's kind of suggested that we're learning more about the captain and his feelings. But are we? Like, or are we just reading that? Like, it's never really properly explained until that episode that we know is coming up. We're in a long time.
Yeah. Right at the end of the series.
In a good couple of months. So yeah, it's really interesting.
I think that the highlight of this episode is that sort of story. I think they're going through it.
And I think as well, the captain yeah, we have gone past it. So the captain jumped on the bomb.
Yeah.
That was his instinct to do that. And I think at the beginning I said how he kind of was maybe scared of fighting, like when he thought the Germans were coming and got scared. But in that moment, his instinct was to protect those around him. I mean, most of them are ghosts anyway, but he'd want to protect Alison and Mike, and his instinct was to just jump on this.
I suppose
on this thing. So
there's a difference between being scared of fighting and being like
heroic
and wanting to protect people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so
yeah. So I think it kind of we see him a little differently, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely by the end. He does call attention to it though, saying it did seem like a futile gesture.
Yeah.
But
it was a thought that counted.
Yeah. But yeah, so we see that Martin and Claire have arrived now, and so Alison goes to just sort of distract them while Mike cleans up, and the captain at this point, as they disappear, is trying to explain about this limpet mine, this experimental limpet mine. No one's really interested, apart from Robin, who the captain's quite happy to have had this audience and decides to just talk to him about it. We see Alison giving Martin and Claire a tour of Button House, and she keeps trying to show them rooms that they've already seen.
Did you think Claire looked familiar?
She's from something.
I looked at what she was from because it was really bugging me. She's in Harry Potter.
Is she
Leanne?
Leanne?
I'm sure it's Leanne, her name is.
Is it the one who's going to go on a date
with Harry? Yeah. I'm sure her name's Leanne.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah. I can't remember. Yeah, I didn't remember her name, but I just know she's in that one film as Harry Potter's date.
Well, she's actually in 2 of the films. She's in The Deathly Hallows.
Oh, they're all in that one, though, aren't they?
Everyone.
Every character comes back.
I'm surprised that the ghosts aren't in.
One character doesn't come back, but the big D, Dumbo.
Oh, not Door.
I'd say spoilers for Harry Potter, but I mean, it's 2024 at this point.
You've not seen Harry Potter. You need to spoiler alert then.
Big spoiler alert for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows.
20 years on.
So yeah, Alison is giving her a tour and keeps trying to take her to rooms that she's already seen, but she says, I just want to see the garden because that's going to be where the marquee is going to go, as Martin sort of explained earlier on. And so Alison's a bit worried, but says he's trying to sort of downplay it as she goes out and says, we're still working on it. But as they go out, we see it's actually not too bad. Like, Mike's done a pretty decent job of getting it red in Weddy, as he says. And we see Fanny sees Mike again as he's sort of standing next to the statue as it
getting wet.
Like a pipe bursts and starts spraying water, which just looks like a nice water feature. And Fanny starts to get a bit excited again. But yeah, this all goes well. Claire seems to like it, and I think we basically, they don't say it outright, but it's hinted at that it went well enough that they've booked it for their wedding. So later on that evening, we see them celebrating with champagne. Mary decides she's not ready to talk about a witch trial at this point.
Not after a horrendous afternoon.
Yeah, she's had a setback. Pat says that because the volleyball game ended in a draw, that he's going to decide the film. And he says it's got a bit of what did he say? He says he's had a belly full when they start arguing again. But he says it's a film that's got a bit in it for everybody. He points at Robin and says it's got some of your lot in it. And says there's some ladies for Julie and stuff like that, and says that they're watching 2001: A Space Odyssey. We see Alison setting up to watch the film. She's already sat down. She sort of tells Mike where to sit so he doesn't sit on the ghosts, but they sort of have champagne to sort of celebrate. Fanny is a bit uncomfortable sitting next to Mike until he gets out the jalapeno nachos and starts eating them, and she realises he's a sloppy eater, which puts off Fanny.
He eats like you.
Well, yeah. I mean, can anyone eat nachos gracefully? There's just
one at a time.
No, there's no way to do it. Not when you got cheese in the sauce. It's not a chance. She loses interest in him. Kitty says that she's not that bothered about Florence the statue because Alison's a better friend, even though she did do the exact same thing to her sister did. And at the end of the episode, we see the captain sort of watching on and looking out the window as we see Lieutenant Havers leaving through the main gate as he sort of salutes at him as he leaves. So that's the end of the episode. So what did you think?
Yeah, I enjoyed it again. It's as Caroline said, really, like, it really hits the ground running in this series, and each episode so far have been strong episodes. Again, like, I know there's better episodes to come, but it doesn't take away from this episode. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'd give it. Do you wanna
do your score first, and then I'll do mine after. If you've not got a score,
I have.
Debating.
I'm gonna say, I'm not messing about with like 7.8.5. I can't be bothered, so I'm gonna go with 8.
An 8. Fair enough. I don't know why. I remember this episode and remember really liking it, but watching back, the only thing that I really like from it is the captain's backstory. And I really like that, and I like the fact that we're being introduced to all the ghosts' backstory now, and we learn more about them, which I think definitely adds to the series as a whole. I thought this wasn't... I thought it's a good episode. I thought it was the weakest one that we've seen so far of this series, like of the second series. Which, as I was looking at everybody's rankings online, I realised, I'm kind of against the grain on this one because people really like this episode.
Yeah.
And I can understand why, because it's, the captain's backstory, and that has a lot of weight, I think, to it. But I wasn't sold. Like, I thought it was a bit like the actual plot of them sorting out the garden, and that was a bit like...
I don't know. I think those are the best ones, though, because it's so simple. It's not complicated by other people too much. I mean, Martin and Claire, the other characters in the episode, are literally in the episode for all of about 3 minutes.
They're a plot device, essentially.
They're just there. Yeah. They're not... we don't learn anything. We don't need to know anything about them. No. I mean, it's... I think those are the strongest episodes because we learn about who the characters are, and their sort of how they sort of live with each other. So I think for this series especially, we've seen like a real I don't know what to call it, sort of I can't think of the word I'm looking for. I want to say it's not a fight, but like sort of like little arguments between Julian and Thomas.
Yeah.
Like they really don't seem to like each other. They're always sort of making snide comments to each other. Like this isn't the first time that they've had like a bit of a scrap about something. And I think that's interesting. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think anybody who lives in a house of, 8 people for how many hundreds of years are going to get on each other's nerves. And
also, I think, especially with those two characters, they are the polar ends of the political spectrum. You know what I mean? Like one being a conservative MP and the other being a liberal poet, you know what I mean? I think you see those I do like when it pairs up. I notice this in a lot of sitcoms, like they tend to shuffle around who gets paired up. You know what I mean? Like Always Sunny does it quite well. Like there's always 2 of them going off with 2 other people, and it's always different each time. And it's similar in this, I think.
Now you've said that, it kind of
not
7 ghosts,
yeah,
isn't there?
because there's so many probably not paired up in this one, but you know what I mean, like they're all in different groups each time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think as a whole they probably all get on quite well. It's just that
but if you've been dead that long and forced to live with these people, just imagine like a uni flat share where you get chucked in with everybody, but you have to live with them forever.
You've been there.
It was only for a year for you, so you know what I mean? But yeah, saying that, like, it's saying like I'm negative and I didn't like it. I did. I really liked the episode, but just not as much as the first two in the series. So I gave
What was your score?
I gave it a 7. So again, not bad.
That's fair enough.
The average score on IMDb was an 8.1.
Wow, that's our first 8.
We cracked an 8, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I think people really like this episode from 675 votes, that is. The next one has more votes, I noticed, so I don't know if that's a popular one.
Tash's spooky tales.
I don't know, I feel really bad about not doing that now.
Yeah. We'll just have a minute's silence.
I'm not having a minute's silence.
Okay, so as we've said, we're going to be looking at some buildings in the UK for this series that are haunted, supposedly haunted, whatever way you want to look at it. I think we've not really discussed it, but coming back to like how our thoughts are, I'm kind of like open to suggestion of ghosts and you're very sceptical.
I don't believe it, but I like the stories. You know what I mean?
So yeah. So this week I have decided to look at Glasshayes House.
Never heard of it.
No, well, you're going to learn a lot about it now.
Where is it?
So, Glasshayes House is a historic country house in Lyndhurst in the New Forest, Hampshire.
Okay.
Used in the 20th century as the Grand Hotel, then the Lyndhurst Park Hotel, it exists today in the form of a 1912 redesign by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Is that how you say it?
Conan Doyle.
Conan Doyle.
Do you know who he is?
Yeah.
So you said Conan, I was like...
I know, I've never actually heard his name said out loud, to be honest.
True, yeah.
The building and estate, which was purchased in 2014 by developers who sought to demolish it wholesale. A 2017 application to have the hotel listed may avert demolition. So they're looking to knock it down.
What, now?
Yeah.
That's mad.
I know.
Surely it'd be a heritage site if he did it.
If you would like to read more into it, you can have a look at my references where people like have got petitions and stuff to
get a GoFundMe on that.
Yeah. Glasshayes is first mentioned by name in a conveyance document of 1728. At this stage in its history, the land is mainly agricultural, with a cluster of smaller 17th and 18th century properties in the location of the current house. The present Glasshayes House was built sometime between 1806 and 1816 by George Buck. It says Esquire. I don't know what that means.
I've heard the term, but I couldn't tell you what it means. Yeah.
Utilising material from the earlier buildings as a countryside retreat for he and his wife, who died at the house in 1826 and supposedly still haunts it. In 1895, Glasshayes House was sold as the prospective Grand Hotel, and by the 20th century, this new venture had begun operation. Around 1905, the house had another floor added, and it is during this building work that sightings of the ghost of Glasshayes are first reported. Officers from local regiments used the hotel during both World Wars, and numerous celebrity guests during later decades included Margaret Thatcher and the Beatles.
There you go. Well, the 3 Beatles that we know are real.
Well, yeah, exactly. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle had by the early 20th century become a regular visitor to the Grand. It was during a stay at the hotel in March 1912 that he sketched out designs for a 3rd-storey extension and altered the front facade to the building. Work on the extension began in autumn of that year, and the building as it survives today is a near-perfect expression of Doyle's plans. According to local tradition, the building is haunted by a number of ghosts, known as ghosts of Glasshayes. The most cited is that of Richard Fitzgeorge de Stackpool. Sightings have been reported by builders working on extensions to the site, both at the beginning of the 20th century and in the 1970s, apparently berating and sometimes attacking them for disturbing his property.
Oh, who's that? De Stackpool?
Yeah.
Yeah. He actually attacked people working on it.
He actually did, Joe.
Oh, my word.
Supposedly, every year on the night of his death, July 7th, strange music can be heard in certain rooms, and folklore has it that this is from the grand ball that Deuce holds annually for the dead. It feels weird calling him Deuce.
Deuce, D-U-C? Yeah, I don't know. Deuce, yeah, just go with it.
One builder had noticed an old man at the end of the corridor. The builder challenged him, telling him he shouldn't be there. The old man announced that he was Deuce Stackpool. When the builder reached the man and touched him to urge him out, his whole arm went icy cold. He received a sharp stabbing pain in his head, and the next thing he knew, he was being revived by his colleagues.
Wow.
During the 1912 extensions, workers to the site added the 7 Glasshayes devil squares over the entrance, each one signifying a separate ghost sighting during construction.
I mean, I wouldn't put anything that's called a devil's square into a building. That seems like you're asking for trouble.
Other ghost sightings have included that of Mrs. Buck, for whom Glasshayes was built, and who died there in 1826. So she was the woman from before, wasn't she? Mm-hmm. And also the chambermaid, who, according to legend, hanged herself after an affair with the cook.
Oh dear.
The reputation for hauntings is thought to what first attracted Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, a committed spiritualist who held seances in the hotel. It is claimed that he wrote the book The Hound of the Baskervilles while staying in his favourite room.
See, that's another reason why it's surprising that they're knocking it down. If he wrote a book there, surely it's like a place of significance.
Yeah, because you'd think it would get a blue plaque.
That's what I thought, yeah. And you can't knock blue plaques down, can you?
No.
As far as I'm aware.
The National Trust not interested.
No, yeah, get them on the case.
Get them on the case. Yeah, because it's like that with the Beatles. So Mendips is where John Lennon grew up, which is his aunt's house, and that's got a blue plaque. But Paul McCartney's house, they weren't interested in, the National Trust weren't interested in that place because no Beatles songs were actually written there.
Yeah.
And I think somebody bought it. I could be wrong, but I think somebody bought it and then donated it to the National Trust. So, or donated it to like the thing. So, yeah. I did know more about it, but I've obviously forgotten and didn't think to look it up for this purpose.
Is it haunted? Because we could do another time.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, I hold that thought.